Okay, everyone, thank you for joining us this afternoon. I know how busy and how hectic your life can be when you're a fundraiser, especially as we are kind of coming to the close of summer and getting ready to launch into our fall and winter fundraising month. So thank you so much for being here. I am super excited to share the information that Mary's going to share with you in a few minutes. It is going to make your life a lot easier. But before we get into it, I want to just go over a couple of housekeeping tips. If you're not familiar with me, my name is Abby, and I'm part of the team over at QGive. We are an online fundraising company that is all about helping nonprofits earn more money, whether that's online or by giving you super handy tips that will make you more effective at your job. I see a lot of QGive clients and a lot of familiar names on our call today. If there is anything we can do to help you thrive over the coming months, please let us know. If I can't help you myself, I will get you in touch with someone who can. And if you don't use QGive, that's totally fine too. Everything that you're going to learn here today applies to you and will help make your life easier and make you a more effective fundraiser as well. So don't worry about that. Just as a note for you, we are recording this webinar, so you're going to get a copy of this webinar and some other resources from me tomorrow. So keep an eye on your inbox. And speaking of the boxes, check out the chat box. If you have any questions that occur to you throughout the webinar, let me know. We'll have a question and answer time at the end, and I will moderate those questions for you. So I also included our tag handles down here, or our Twitter handles down here, QGives, and our QGive is right here. Check out Mary's also. Her Twitter account is full of awesome links and tweets. So now that we've got those things out of the way, I'm super excited to introduce Mary to you. She has been in the nonprofit industry for a little over 30 years, I think, and is going to share some very practical, very simple survival tips for you that will be a great help to you. So, Mary, take it away.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you. My goal with this actually began with a blog post, and it was just born out of my own mistakes and situations and things I learned the hard way. So I'm hoping that sharing them with you today will help you avoid a few unpleasant situations. A little bit about me. I've got more than 30 years fundraising for nonprofits in one way or another. I think I'm going to stop counting now at 3 decades. 5 years ago, Hands-On Fundraising was born when I decided to consult full-time. I focus mainly on donor communications and fundraising strategy. Those are the areas I love the most. And yes, you can count me among those committed donor love fans because it works. So let's talk about ways you can help keep yourself sane while doing this work. This one was born out of a very embarrassing situation. I was coming into work one day, and it was one of those days where I figured I'd be playing with Excel all day and trying to wrangle our not so great CRM into shape. So I was in a t-shirt and jeans and my clogs and perfectly comfortable for that kind of work. And our executive director breezed in and said, "Well, come on, let's go." Go where? To the foundation. We have a meeting with them this morning. Okay, no one told me about this meeting. So I grabbed my winter jacket, which at least was shaped sort of like a jacket, and put that on and sat there in the meeting, dying of heat exhaustion, with my winter coat on the whole way, trying to look at least semi-professional. After that, I learned keep a jacket, a scarf, maybe an older pair of flats that you could get away with looking like they're decent shoes, a tie, something that you can use to immediately dress yourself up when a situation like that happens, or an important donor walks in the door and wants to meet with you suddenly. Don't worry if your office is casual, and I don't know why more offices aren't casual, but be comfortable, but just be prepared. You just never know when that's going to happen. A little similar advice from some of my friends. I'll be sprinkling these throughout because crowdsourcing is the thing to do. And this is especially important If you've been working all day to set up an event and then at night you have to change into grown-up clothes and look all polished and pretty, wet wipes and deodorant, keep them in your drawer. They're a lifesaver. So plans are a procrastinator's best friend, talking from experience here. So whenever you have a few minutes, think through what needs to be done and write it down. At least you won't have to keep it in your brain. In the same way, don't wing your fundraising for the year. Plan it. And once you've got it planned, you don't have to spend all that mental energy worrying about it. You know when things are going to happen and what. And that leaves you a little room for that procrastination. Plan communications too. Make a calendar. Know what you're doing. Every little bit that you can plan ahead save you so much worry and racing to catch up on the other side. I know it sounds a little counterintuitive for procrastinators to plan, but push yourself to get some planning done when things are quieter, and you will be so much happier. When you have one of those days that suddenly you don't have a whole lot you must get done, those are the great days to do what I was doing for our first tip and dig into your CRM and start cleaning up your data, right? That's one of those jobs that's really great for your brain to switch. If you've been writing something all day, great to switch and play with data instead. Good for your brain. Also, from my friend Clay, and I could not agree more, hard lessons, data, data, data. Keep that stuff clean, keep it up to date. It takes just a tiny bit of attention on a daily basis to keep everything neat and tidy and organized so you can get all kinds of great information out of it and be a fabulous fundraiser. If you let it go, then it turns into just a huge mountain that you'll never dig your way out of. I love this photo. Your staff looks just like that, right? I especially love the pink shorts. But the point is serious. This is one of those investments you make. And I mean that in exactly that sort of financial way. It's going to pay off in the long run. We're terrible at this in this sector. Chances are, unless you work for a really big organization with a nice budget, going to things like conferences or workshop are only on the menu if they're free, thus today. If you're the leader of your development office, you might not have the final say over things like salaries or benefits, but you can invest time. And you may have to do that planning thing we talked about before, but you can invest time. Take care of your staff, and that's emotional, that's physical, that's workload wise. Let them know that you're supporting them, that you're there. It could mean training, it could mean flexible time, it definitely means clear expectations, but lots of encouragement and praise. I used to joke that I'd work for pats on the head, and it sounds really sort of sad when I say it, but that kind of person-to-person encouragement can keep people going for so long. It also means pointing to staff success in public. If you're the leader, you don't get to hog all the limelight. In fact, you shouldn't seek it at all. You should turn it all on your staff, because it's going to reflect even more back at you when you do that. And you will build people who will work their tails off as part of a team with you. Your job really is to build a team that works together, that supports one another. Maybe the annual giving person has a huge mailing to get out. Everybody helps stuff. Or your grant writer is stressing over a huge, complex grant. Give her some private space and bring her lunch or Twizzlers. A family emergency, no questions asked, go take care of it. We'll cover for you. Be there for one another. It's I was going to also say, as Boulay would say, make sure everybody gets a decent chair. If you don't have a team, then you're going to want to build one from your coworkers in other areas. That's sort of what a culture of philanthropy, how that starts. So on the same line, some more advice from friends. Keep reminding your team that it is a team effort. It's not a contest, and recognize everyone's contributions. Make sure everyone feels like they're contributing and celebrate their contributions. And of course, food. Bring donuts, baked goods, fun stuff to eat. People will love you for cookies. I'm not a great baker, but I had a colleague who really was, and even our board members kind of got started spoiled waiting for her to come to meetings because she'd bring something yummy and everybody loved her. Here's a really key one that I definitely learned the hard way several times over. Set boundaries from the start. This doesn't mean you have to be aggressive or defensive, but right from the beginning, set the boundaries for what you will and will not do. They're also something we're really bad at. Your job is not 24/7. And it is not, no matter how important the work, you have to have time to be you, to have a life. And you can't give your all to the job if you're giving all your time and energy and thought to the job. You need that time away to be creative, to feel renewed about the mission. Do not allow people to consider you on call 24/7. Tell them that right from the start and then mean it, even if it means ignoring calls. I spent a good chunk of my time working in regional theaters. We're known for crazy hours. Personally, I had to be in early and out early because I had a weird daycare situation I couldn't fix, but everyone else was in it, later on, and we all worked many times right through the evening. Those are crazy hours. There's the time the donors expect to see you. There's the time staff members expect to see you. I knew one DOD who was really smart and said, fine, I will be here when I'm needed for donors. I will be here when I'm needed for the staff. But there's one thing I will not give up, and that's every night I'm going to read to my kids. And she was really firm about it, and everyone in the organization respected that, and they never asked her to give that time up. So set your own boundaries, decide what really matters to you and what you must have to be able to be great at what you do, and then enforce those boundaries. You deserve it. You can let people know where you can be reached, but also let them know when you can be reached. So that 9:30 p.m. call, no, you'll take care of it in the morning. Also, especially for development staff, that sort of boss needs to see you at your desk FaceTime kind of thing doesn't work. The folks who are dealing with donors are probably doing a better job when they're not at their desk all the time, when they're out meeting with donors or talking to foundations or out and building connections in the community. So don't fall for that must be at your desk thing. And then set goals for yourself and for your team. You set them. Be proactive about it. You set them, you share them with the executive director. Don't wait for them to set the goals for you. The more you are proactive about it, the more you set them and share them and then report on them constantly, the more trust you will build and the less time you'll spend whacking requests that you can't handle at this moment down and away from you. Danielle's got great advice here, and it takes a lot of discipline, but block out an hour to an hour and a half every day. I started to do this now myself, and it really, really helps. Again, you have to let everyone you're working with know that that's what you're doing and why you're doing it, but it really can matter. And I was never able to make this work, but boy, if you could, the people I know who did it really benefited from it. Go get your lunch. Don't sit at your desk and eat it while you keep working. Go take a break, a little walk, something to get away from the desk and the office and everything, and just let your brain relax for a few minutes. And of course, right to the point advice from my friend Ephraim, stop taking stuff from everyone. I understand that we're all underpaid and overworked, but there's no reason to treat your coworkers like stuff or to be treated that way. We're all in it together. So the office dynamics, when they get bad, all they do is suck energy from everyone. So treat everyone well and tell people when they're not treating you well that you don't like it. This might be the hardest one of all. You've got to learn to refuse the savior mantle. What do I mean? Here's what I mean. So you may absolutely love it and start to glow and feel all wonderful inside when your executive director tells a board member that she doesn't know how they'd get anything done without you. You're amazing. And that feels so good, right? Until she follows through on that and they can't get anything done without you. And you're the only one who can save the whole organization. And why aren't you saving the whole organization? That glowy feeling is lovely, but it only lasts so long. You are not the savior. No single person can make an organization work. No single person is responsible for making the whole organization work. Just because you may be raising the money that feeds the organization doesn't mean that you're alone. Even if you're the solo development person, doesn't mean that you're alone in doing that. A culture of philanthropy is all about that team building. It's all about everyone being involved, everyone being responsible. I don't care what area of the organization you work in, everyone being responsible, board, staff, the leaders, all of it, for finding and raising and building communications and connections with people in the community to make the mission possible. Program staff, they can bring you stories or lead a tour. At one organization, we had a program staff person who was an engineer by trade. And you might think, what's that got to do with fundraising? He was the best fundraiser we had. Better than me, better than anybody. He knew our mission inside and out. He understood it. He could talk about it off the cuff because everything was just part of what he did and why he loved it. So he was a fabulous messenger. In return, you have to help everyone else too. It's not just everyone is now part of my team. You're also now part of their team as well. So first thing to be sure you do is make sure that you're sharing that credit again. So let's say, let's say a big grant just came in. Terrific. Thank you to everyone who helped. And thank you to everyone. Bring cookies for everybody who's there. Do something to make sure everyone feels celebrated. More advice from Ephraim. And it's true. It's never going to be enough. There is never enough money. Organizations have a way of growing to immediately use all the money that they raise. So learn to appreciate what you have done and what you're working toward. There's nothing bad about feeling good about that. The boss is also feeling pressure and may not behave as if he or she is happy, but if you're feeling awful about it, you're going to be bad at raising the money. And learn. This is another way for that culture of philanthropy to grow. Learn about what other areas are doing. Understand their work as much as you hope that they will understand yours. And it's good for you. If you can really speak about the work that you're doing, you're going to be much better representative for the organization. Back when I worked in the theater, I usually found a lot of surprise when I'd meet with a playwright or some other artistic staff and we'd start talking about a play. And of course I'd read it because I was an English major and a drama major and this is what I did. But they were shocked. They weren't used to that. So suddenly we had this bond, right, from the artistic staff and that, or with board members who really were the same kind of people. Everything that makes you a well-rounded person makes you a better fundraiser that way. I'm going to say this again with relationships, and I know I've been harping on it, but it really is the key to all of it, right? It's the key to good fundraising. It's the key to staying sane. And we've talked about building relationships with your colleagues inside the office. You'll want to build relationships as a fundraiser with your donors, with your board. Board relationships are so important. That's really a good place to invest time. But you also want to think about what you can give as well as what you're hoping to get. So make yourself helpful without stepping over your boundaries, right, that you've set up for yourself so you can stay sane. Maybe it's sharing your database skills when the volunteer coordinator is trying to set up a new system. Maybe she helped you stuff that mailing last week, so this week you can help her get that straightened out. Or if someone else is busy doing something that needs sort of all hands on deck, do it cheerfully. Go with the executive director to a meeting that doesn't really have anything to do with fundraising, but she needs a little company. Make friends. But here's the other thing that I didn't do as well until later on in my career. Make friends outside the organization for you. I'm not talking just social friends. I'm talking colleagues working at other organizations. You want to have a network of people who understand your work, who understand what you're doing, who understand the frustrations and the fears, all of it, but who aren't caught up in the politics of your own office. People you can call on for support and advice. It will make your work so much better and more fulfilling when you have good sounding boards to bounce things off. Have allies. It's a huge relief to be able to call someone and say, God, this happened. Did I do wrong? No, that was perfect. You did just right. And this might sound a little crazy, but you can build those kind of networks online too. Twitter has this great community of fundraisers. Smart, generous, eager to share ideas, eager to just commiserate when you need it. Get involved. There are all kinds of little groups that have sprung up and died and sprung up and died. But even if you just use a hashtag for fundraising and start looking there, you'll find all kinds of fabulous people who have this funny way of turning into fabulous friends. And it's really rewarding, and it's nice to know you're not all alone out there. And this, of course, from my big-hearted friend Pam, this turns it all from worrying about how you're going to take care of yourself to what it's really all about. And it's true. When you take a moment and think about gratitude and express that gratitude to people who do support your organization or support you, it's this magic thing that makes them feel great, but it also makes you feel great. Expressing that gratitude makes you feel just as good as receiving it. So make some time in your day to do that. You know, call some donors. Try calling a donor who's not a major donor. Someone who gives you $10 every year. You will be amazed at the reaction you get. Yes, you may just get an answering machine because no one answers their phones now, but if you do get them, they'll be sort of amazed and, wait, what? I don't matter. And you'll get a chance to tell them that they really do matter, and then that'll make you feel like a hero, and they'll feel great, and it's wonderful medicine all the way around. And from my wise friend Tanya, own your own humanness. Be okay with being vulnerable. Seek help, guidance, advice when you need it. Be gentle with yourself and make time for the mental space, which is what allows for resiliency. And she is so right. So I might have to clip that one and put it above my desk. So now I kind of warned Abby and Esther to handle moderating this, but we all probably have learned and have our own little tips and tricks that make life a bit easier. And I'm hoping that you'll share some of yours now in the comment or chat box there. And as you do, I'll share them with the group, and we can all do a little better because of it.
Definitely. Yeah, as you guys share some of the tips that you use to help keep yourself sane, I'll share one of my own. One thing I learned is remarkably the importance of getting a good night's sleep. It is such a small thing and it's such a simple thing. But I think we've all been at a point in our careers where we are super tired or we're worried about something, so we kind of stay up and work at home. We kind of push back on those boundaries. And then I don't know, Mary, if you were like me, if I don't get sleep, I'm not as effective at work. I'm not as
Absolutely.
empathetic. It's hard for me to work with other people. It's hard for me to get excited about the things that I'm doing, even if I love them. So that is something that I would share. Um,
Absolutely.
Everyone, drop your tips in here in the chat box. And Mary, while we wait for some of those, I do have a question from
Oh, yeah.
Gary. He mentioned that you talk about investing in your staff, but he is also curious about how we can invest in ourselves as fundraisers.
Well, a lot of the things that you'd want to do to make your staff feel great are things you need to do for yourself as well. Educational opportunities, getting out and meeting other people in your either fundraising or even a more defined sector. Even one of the most fruitful things I did at one job where I had the trust of my superiors was every morning I spent an hour on the computer, and to them it probably looked like I was just surfing the web, but I was reading great blogs and great advice, and I came up with so many great new ideas because of that hour in the morning that we raised a ton more money. It's where I read another article by Jonathan Grafsis about newsletters and suddenly thought, holy, was that Jonathan? Maybe that was, no, that was probably Lisa Sargent, and then Jonathan about surveys. But suddenly it was like, oh my goodness, this is a great idea. And I did it. And we started raising all kinds of money with them because I was able and trusted to spend that time with what looked like getting nothing done, getting a ton done, just reading. So feed your own interests with that, feed your own talents. And, and then it comes back down to giving some boundaries. So if you need to be outside for half an hour to get that sun on your face so that you feel revived and ready to go, then you can then set up boundaries for that half hour. Give yourself
I
the
love
kinds of things
that.
you'd like a boss to give you.
Oh, true. One thing I was going to ask also is what resources would you recommend sharing, either with staff or with yourself, to kind of find those gems and find those ideas, or even maybe find conferences like you were talking about?
Oh, I can't remember who it is, but somebody was putting together, maybe it was Pamela. She might have been putting together a list of conferences. Uh, I can check that and get that to you, Abby, when you're sending stuff out and see if I can find that. As far as online, I'm going to mention some of the things that I started reading, but I want to put a big dark line under that this anyone I forget to mention doesn't mean that they're not fabulous, because they really are just a world. And that's why I don't have blog roll on my blog. I hate to think I'm leaving someone out, but um, I love Future Fundraising Now. Um, I love Pam's weekly email newsletter, Agitator, which I think is now also Donor Voice, but they've got great info on there. Sign up for Tom Hearn's newsletter. Um,
He's the greatest.
he's wonderful. And if you don't know Sophie, Sofii, you need to meet Sophie. Um, it's like the whole world of great ideas all in one big giant free website. It's an amazing resource. Um, Who else did I read constantly back in those days? Oh, I know I'm forgetting important ones, but just
Oh
follow
yeah,
your own particular interests. I found, sort of annual giving and donor communications, copywriting were my areas. So I chased down people like Lisa Sargent, and Tom Ahern and Jeff Brooks, and just sort of absorbed everything they could teach me.
that is brilliant advice. I have one really cool survival tip. But a couple of you have asked where to put these survival tips.
Ah,
And someone let me know that they can't see the chat. So if you drop them in the questions box, I'll see them there too. But Kim Shell just shared one that I think is beautiful. She said that she leaves her office and walks over to the program area and just kind of walks around. And she said it refreshes her and it reminds her of why she's actually raising the money that
yes.
she's doing.
Oh gosh,
And I just had a
yes.
conversation with a friend about this. She's a development director um, who works for a clinic, but she goes and walks the clinic once or twice a day. And then
Mhm.
she actually will volunteer in the clinic once a week. And that kind of reconnects her to the mission. And I know how burnt out we can get when all we see is the spreadsheets and the numbers and the fundraising goals and everything. So I think that's a beautiful tip.
It's perfect. Yes, it's going to make you a so much better fundraiser, but it's also going to make you feel wonderful about it again, which is why you're doing this, not just for if you wanted just a job, you could go and make more money doing just a job. But we're in this because we got big hearts for the missions. So yeah, reconnect yourself to
Absolutely.
it.
Another one that I got, and it's funny, getting up and walking seems to be a thread in a lot of these. Someone wrote in and said that getting out of the office once in a while is important. Um, Even if you're just walking around or if you're using a vacation day or if you are going out and just eating lunch once in a while. And then that's especially useful if you are frustrated. So you can step away from your desk
Mm.
or work on another project for a while until you're mentally prepared enough to kind of dive back in. Um, and I know
Yeah,
I
and
do
if
that.
yeah,
We're
absolutely.
in
And if you're allowed
go
to
ahead.
work sometimes from home,
Mhm.
that can also just having different surroundings can change the way you're thinking about things and make you so much more creative. Even now, when I
Definitely.
do work out of
Um,
my office here at home, I will take myself off to, take myself to lunch every once in a while and work there just because you need that stimulation.
Definitely. I write a lot for work, and I mean, we live in Central Florida, so it's blisteringly hot a lot. But when it is not blisteringly hot, the best way for me to break through either a frustrating project or being discouraged about something that isn't working out the way I like to is just to go take a walk around the block, and that has been really helpful. Um, oh, we got a really great tip from Gary. He says that, and something that is really important to him is to go to Chamber of Commerce meetings.
Mm.
And that is a really great place for him to network with other fundraisers and major gift officers, which I think is really cool. I never thought of going to a Chamber of Commerce meeting.
Yeah, that's smart.
Um,
That's very
that
smart.
is really smart. Thank you, Gary. That was a good one.
Hmm.
Responses are kind of slowing down, but I wanted to see what you would advise for fundraisers who are getting ready to dive into a really busy time of year. Do you have any little tricks that you can kind of work into your day when you do have to be on the phone all day and you can't necessarily go out to eat or walk away from your desk? Is there something we can do at our desks or just in our offices to kind of get us through the craziness?
Well, yeah, this time of year is we're just about kicking into the busy time of year. Well, first planning as much as you can do before it gets really awful. Um,
Mm-hmm.
really have things already, the brain work of planning things thought of ahead of time. If you're speaking with people, I don't think I suggest focusing, trying to multitask then. Sometimes all that multitasking we feel forced to do actually drains us so much that we can't get anything done. So if you're talking to people, put everything else away and actually really focus on the conversation. You'll get more out of it. You'll feel better about it, and you'll save some brain power for when you're off the phone and you want to get something different done. And as much as possible, sort of trade off between sort of right brain, left brain tasks. It will definitely keep you going a little bit longer. You'll be able to catch your breath on one side of your brain while the other's working, and then switch around. There's probably nothing that's going to make the day longer, so you can get more done right now, but plan as much as you can. Be really focused on what you're doing in the moment, and don't get sidetracked with other shiny objects that maybe don't have the precedence over the plans you've already made.
That is very good advice. I've never thought about the difference between left brain and right brain work, which is funny because, like you, I'm an English major and so I write for a
Yep.
living. So that's a very interesting point. And I was going to give this little tip that I've learned at QGIF. I know a lot of you are writing marketing materials or appeal letters or invitations or updates for your donors. So this is one thing that can help if you get stuck writing something. Take a second and read it out loud as you're getting ready to send your appeal or whatever you need to send out.
Mm-hmm.
If you're stuck and it sounds awkward, you'll notice it when you read it out loud. And then if you're really stuck, or if you want just another set of eyes on it, ask for someone either in your office or your friend or a board member to read it for you. If I recently did this exercise for a nonprofit that I volunteer with and helped them workshop an appeal, but just by reading it out loud. So I know when you're tired and you're trying to write a really great donor focused email or write a really fantastic appeal that just moves people to donate. And if you get stuck, try reading it out loud.
There is, and I'm looking to see if I can find it, but there is also, oh yeah, there's a free text to speech reader. So if you're in a busy office and there are people around you and you're going to feel awfully embarrassed if you're sitting there reading to yourself, put earphones on, and this is at T as in Tom, so ttsreader.com. And you can plug your text in and it will read it back to you. And you can choose what
Ooh,
kind of
that's a
voice you
good
like.
tip.
So if you want to sound like a very British woman, you could do that, or, you can have American English or British English and male or female or whatever. But it's handy,
Oh, that's
especially when
perfect.
you don't want to feel like they're going to be worrying about your mental health as you're reading speeches out loud there.
That's perfect. I've got one more tip from Shay, and he says the biggest thing is to make sure that everyone on your team knows what they should be prioritizing at any given time. So the
Yes.
most important work then is given the most attention. And then he said that no one should be devoting their time to activities of lesser importance unless that is the next on their priority list. So that was a really great survival tip as
Yes.
well. Thank you, Shay.
It kind of all does come down to that planning and knowing what the priorities are, right? So that you don't get
Absolutely.
pulled off the path there.
Absolutely. Well, those are the big tips we've gotten. I really kind of wonder how many years of experience we have with everyone who is currently
I know.
on the phone dropping in their survival tips. But you guys have gotten 6 practical survival tips from Mary. You guys have shared a ton of other survival tips with us. Thank you so much for giving us your insights and your ideas. You guys have been really fantastic in sharing your knowledge with the rest of us, and I really wanted to thank you. Um, we have kind of come to the end of today's little session, but it is not over entirely. Keep an eye out on your email. I will send you a recording of this webinar with a rundown of some tips and some additional resources both from me and from Mary. So you will be able to kind of commit these to memory, have them in your back pocket as you go into the next fundraising season, and just totally smash your fundraising goals while thriving doing it. You guys have been fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today. Mary, thank you for your time.
Thank
Really
you,
appreciate
everyone.
it. All right, everyone, have a great Tuesday. Get out there and kill it. It's going to be an awesome week. All right, bye, everyone.
Bye.